The villains are one of my biggest issues with the movie, since they all happen to suck. For the film's first half, we follow the character of Ben, played by Billy Magnuson. He's like a local crime boss who wants to build a casino that the roadhouse named Roadhouse is on, and he wants to destroy the bar in order to do it. So unlike Ben Gazzara, who literally chews the scenes every time he pops into the original 89 film.
You bleed too much. You are a messy bleeder.
You know, for as long as I've been streaming and making videos on my variety of platforms, you know, I've always expressed my love for 1989's Roadhouse, starring Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott and Ben Gazzara. Now, it's a bad movie, but it's so bad that it kind of wraps around to being good again, honestly. It embraces its stupidity and runs with it, or in the case of the movie, rips its throat out. You know, Swayze is smoldering and owns every scene he's in. The villains are all truly diabolical and gleefully evil. It has a number of great fight scenes. It's infinitely quotable.
Pain don't hurt.
But most importantly, it's funny. And the filmmakers and collaborators that worked on that movie had enough common sense to not take it too seriously. And that's why, to this day, it's one of my favorite bad movies, and will probably remain so to the end of my days. I know there have been past attempts or rumored talks to do a remake of the film for some time now, for years, for decades. But they always seem to dissipate, and I'm glad they did, because I feel like a modern filmmaker and team wouldn't be able to replicate the same level of fun as the original, have the same sensibilities as those guys did for that film. But Doug Liman came in with his screenwriters, Anthony Bagarozzi and Charles Mondry, to direct and write respectively, a modern and supposedly more serious take on Roadhouse, incorporating modern things like the UFC and MMA. And, you know, I'd be honest, I've been dreading seeing this film for what feels like a year now, if not longer, pretty much as soon as it was announced. But I have seen the movie, and I have a lot to say about it. However, let me provide you with a premise for this direct-to-streaming reboot of Roadhouse. A drifter and ex-UFC fighter named Dalton takes a job as a bouncer at a Florida Keys roadhouse called the Roadhouse. Yes, it's that lame. Only to discover that this idyllic paradise is not at all as it seems. So I started to hear some good buzz for Roadhouse 2024, that's what I'm going to call it, when it made its premiere at this year's South by Southwest, only a couple of weeks ago. Which, you know, is probably good, since Doug Liman has been doing nothing but bad-mouthing the film and the fact it was going straight to streaming, forgoing the typical theatrical release he was supposedly verbally promised. I don't know about that. In any case, people were saying the film was great, that it's one of the best action films of the year, if not the decade, from the characters to the story and to the action scenes. And I momentarily thought that Lyman and everyone involved did it. They actually made a great remake of Roadhouse. And I'm like, you know what? All right, fair enough. Okay, let's see. Well, I started watching the movie, and I realized this is all coming from a festival audience. And festival audiences, like South by Southwest, are full of shit. Because this movie This entire film is a colossal disappointment and is a fucking shadow compared to the original 1989 film. Now, Jake Gyllenhaal is playing Dalton in this movie, and it's a very different Dalton, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all. You know, he's not a bouncer, and they don't explore the culture of bouncing at all in the film. And he's more of a listless drifter who also happened to be a former UFC middleweight fighter. I have to say this. I think Gyllenhaal is a great actor, and I've loved him in movies like Zodiac and Prisoners and Nightcrawler. Hell, he made an amazing Mysterio in Spider-Man.
Fire all the drones now!
Completely psychotic in this movie. In this particular film, he's fine. He's okay. His performance is perfectly unremarkable. There's nothing about him that stands out, and you could have easily replaced him with any male actor between the ages of 35 and 45. And I'm sure they would have just been as middle of the road as him. Just a solid, yep. That's what I think they would have done. The rest of the cast, in my opinion, is fairly flat as well. The many patrons and workers of the Roadhouse are, they're doing their thing. They got some lines that I'm sure they were hoping, to get a bigger chuckle out of me with. But they kind of just, drifted the background eventually. You have Daniela Melchior as the love interest, Ellie. But her and Gyllenhaal have little chemistry or interesting scenes with each other, since their dialogue either goes back and forth between being fairly dull or not even that cute and funny as they think. There's kind of honestly just a lot of awkwardness between the two of them, and I didn't feel any sense of, again, chemistry between them. The villains are one of my biggest issues with the movie, since they all happen to suck. For the film's first half, we follow the character of Ben, played by Billy Magnuson. He's like a local crime boss who wants to build a casino that the Roadhouse named Roadhouse is on, and he wants to destroy the bar in order to do it. So unlike Ben Gazzara, who literally chews the scenes every time he pops into the original 89 film.
You bleed too much. You are a messy bleeder.
This Ben guy is just whiny, petulant, and annoying. There's no sense of menace or charisma from him, and he just hangs out on his boat, complaining about his daddy issues and Dalton and anything else that happens to be annoying him at that time. It's just like, why is this character even here? He's just so unnecessary and so dull. He's just a plot device. He's a plot device, no sense of charisma. He just gets us from point A to point B and finally to point C. That's the purpose that he serves. Now, most people curious about this movie are probably interested in Conor McGregor, who makes his feature film debut in Roadhouse, as far as I know. Now, I don't like McGregor as a person. I think he's pretty despicable, especially for his consistent past assaults on innocent people and attacking other UFC fighters out of the ring. Just a scumbag shit stain of a human being all around, in my opinion. But maybe, I thought he could bring some of that real-life awfulness to this role. The thing is, he doesn't come into the movie really until the halfway point. And lo and behold, he's not a very good actor. One, it's very hard to understand what he's saying most of the time. And two, he mumbles a good portion of his dialogue. And his fight scenes, and really the fight scenes in general, are surprisingly not good at all. The fight choreography is completely different in this film from the original. And while the original definitely had the occasional goofy moment of people spinning around in place during a bar brawl, it had a real grounded style that made so much of the hand-to-hand fight scenes so fun to watch, right? The fight scenes in this are way overdone, overly choreographed, and I noticed there's a ton of awful CGI and green screen in this movie. There's a lot of shots that look so fake in this film, but there's this one. And I want to know if you guys notice this too. There's this one that just sticks out in my mind, where Jake Gyllenhaal is on a boat at sea, though not really because it's obviously a set, and this guy comes out of this CGI smoke, and half his body is lit on fire, but it's CGI fire. He runs up to Jake Gyllenhaal, waddles up to him, and goes, ah! Screams at him, and then Gyllenhaal punches him. And he falls back into the green screen, and it looked horrendous. This is a spoiler. I don't think it really matters. The film opens up with a fight scene with Post Malone, which is who you want to see in a Roadhouse movie. I want to see Post Malone, who I guess they're trying to sell us as being a badass. Now, I got nothing against the man. You know, I've heard some of his music. I think it sounds really nice. It's been featured before, but the way they shoot him is very weird, and I think they're like literally hiding the fact that he can't fight, and there is definitely CGI assisting the scene itself. Like when his fist goes to a guy's face, I'm like, that looked like really weird and kind of uncanny, and I was like, that was a weird shot, and then it kept happening as I was watching. I was like, wait a goddamn minute, what's going on? And the thing is, it's throughout the entire film. You know, all the hype around Gyllenhaal and McGregor fighting each other is all for naught. You know, because their fight scenes are just poorly choreographed and badly shot. You can obviously see they're not actually hitting each other, and it looks so fucking fake. None of the grit, sweat, or machismo is featured in these fight scenes. It's like something out of a straight-to-VOD Steven Seagal film. And, you know, I've been critical of a number of action films lately because they all seem to be copying the John Wick franchise in all sorts of ways. You know, John Wick is the new influential action genre film of today. It just is. Like The Matrix and Die Hard before it. But at least those knockoffs, and which we've gotten several this year, had fight scenes that looked real and were well choreographed. Roadhouse 2024 simply does not. And I found it incredibly distracting watching. I was like, okay, well, I'm not liking these characters all that much. I'm not liking the dynamic between everybody. I feel like a lot of it's falling flat. Well, I was like, these fight scenes are going to have modern sensibilities. Probably look good. No, not at all, which is very surprising. As I said before, I should have known better. I apologize, Chad. I should have known better when hearing the word of mouth and reviews from festivals like South by Southwest, because this movie, at the end of the day, has none of the charm, class, or sense of fun that the original 1989 Roadhouse has in spades. Roadhouse 2024 will be forgotten, while the original will live forever. But what about you guys? Those of you who have seen this movie, did you love it? Did you not like it? Did you hate it as much as I did? We were more mixed on it. Did you notice the weird CGI in this film? Why is Post Malone in the movie? Why do you start Roadhouse with Post Malone? It's a very odd choice. Does pain hurt, Chet? I don't know. I thought it didn't. I thought it didn't, but it hurt. It hurt watching this movie, Chet. So I guess pain does hurt. What about you guys? Let me know.